Gun control in Northern Ireland. An important question to ask is, why did the PIRA go to America and Libya to get guns? Was it really that hard to get them in Northern Ireland itself? The answer is yes. From early on, the British mainland authorities and the Northern Ireland government understood tight gun control was needed to keep firearms from falling into PIRA hands. Subsequently, several gun control laws were passed in Northern Ireland reflecting the government's desire to tightly regulate firearms. The one gun control law in specific we will focus on is the 65-page Firearms Northern Ireland Order 1981, number 155 NJL2. This gun control law, one of the most restrictive in all of Europe, must be seen for what it was, a reaction to the PIRA's guerrilla war that had been burning hot for more than a decade. The government wanted to be tough on the PIRA, and gun control was one way to keep the pressure on them. Order 1981 stated anyone who owned, purchased, or possessed a firearm or ammunition had to have a firearm certificate or they would be breaking the law. Additionally, anyone who owned, purchased, or possessed any accessory to any such weapon designed or adapted to diminish the noise or flash caused by firing the weapon, in other words, a flash or sound suppressor, must also have a certificate for that device or they would be breaking the law. Both shotguns and high-velocity air rifles were recognized as requiring a firearm certificate. Only recognized licensed firearms dealers could buy, sell, trade, and repair firearms. Sales or transfers between two private citizens were illegal. Fully automatic firearms were illegal, as were any semi-automatic or pump-action firearms other than .22 caliber rimfire weapons. Any exceptions must be approved by the Secretary of State. The Secretary of State also reserved the right to prohibit the transfer of firearms or ammunition from one place to another in Northern Ireland, to prohibit a transfer of these items from Great Britain to Northern Ireland, and to prohibit these items from being exported out of Northern Ireland itself. Firearms dealers could sell legal weapons to private citizens, but the dealers had to report these transactions to the police, and the dealers had to show they had taken the appropriate measures to ensure the true identity of the purchaser. The dealer also had to keep a record of all their transactions for the last 10 years, so police could check their records. Also, any gunsmithing done to a weapon, like alterations or repairs, had to be reported to the police within 48 hours. If a dealer failed to abide by these regulations, they were committing a crime. There were some loopholes in the firearms certificate process, but they were microscopic. For instance, a citizen with no firearm certificate could possess a firearm licensed in someone else's name, but only if they were transporting the weapon for that person and it was for sporting purposes only. A citizen could have in their possession an unlicensed firearm if they were the member of a recognized shooting club and they were involved in target practice. And a citizen could possess an unlicensed low-velocity airgun if they were shooting at an established range. If a citizen did legally purchase and possess a firearm, they still had to use it in a lawful manner. Legally carrying a weapon, but with the intent to commit a criminal action, was a crime. As intended by the government, the various legal offenses started to stack up if one was in possession of an illegal firearm. For example, trespassing with a weapon was illegal, such as PIRA members conducting home invasions. Firing weapons in a public place or road was illegal, like PIRA snipers firing in urban environments, and anyone who spent 3 years in prison, like the hundreds of PIRA members who cycled through the legal system, could not legally own a firearm. When applying for a firearm certificate, the government ensured they knew exactly who they were giving a weapon to. The applicant had to provide up to 4 pictures of themselves, and providing false information on the certificate, like PIRA members using fake identification cards, was a crime. Plus, the person applying for the firearm certificate had to prove to the police they had a good reason for wanting to possess a firearm. Once a citizen had a firearm certificate, which was valid for 3 years, it could be revoked at any time by the police if the person was deemed a threat to public safety. So, if a citizen acquired a legal, licensed weapon and then joined the PIRA, their firearm certificate would be revoked as soon as the police found out about their affiliation with that illegal organization. The police had wide authority to enforce Order 1981, and judges could issue warrants authorizing police to enter and search any private residence or premises to search for and seize firearms. The police could also conduct these searches in order to inspect the records of gun dealers. On the streets, the police had the authority under reasonable cause to question and search any person who was suspected of carrying a firearm. As a result, any PIRA member looking suspicious or unnatural during an operation was inviting themselves to be searched and questioned. Since the authorities placed such a strong emphasis on forensic science, citizens, when asked in writing by the police, had to submit their firearms for ballistic testing. This allowed the police to compare the ballistics of any given firearm with that of incriminating bullets found at a crime scene fired by a PIRA gunman. Punishments for violating these gun laws varied. If a PIRA member was caught in possession of unregistered ammunition, they could receive a 5-year prison sentence. If a PIRA member was caught in possession of an unregistered handgun, they faced a 10-year prison sentence. For example, Irish National Liberation Army member Christopher McWilliams, who would later gain notoriety as the trigger man who killed Protestant paramilitary leader Billy Wright, was once arrested for illegal possession of a handgun with intent to cause injury and was given a 14-year jail sentence. And if, let us say, a PIRA sniper was caught in possession of a rifle and was determined to be using said rifle for criminal intent, such as shooting a British soldier, the sniper could face life in prison. Violations of many of these gun laws demanded a minimum automatic 5-year prison sentence to deter anyone from breaking the law in the first place. The authorities did not want some slick-talking lawyer in the pay of the PIRA's political arm, Sinn Féin, to come in and get a PIRA gunman off the hook through tricky legalese. Although this still happened, the government wanted PIRA members to do hard time before seeing the light of day. Even with these strict gun laws, many citizens did apply for and receive firearm certificates. This was possible since a person could state personal protection as a legitimate reason for requesting legal ownership of a firearm. This opened the door for Protestants to argue they felt threatened by the PIRA so they could get a gun. One statistic for 1996 showed 10,867 firearm certificates were issued in Northern Ireland for the purpose of personal protection. Another record said approximately 90,000 firearm certificates for all reasons, not just personal protection, were issued in Northern Ireland. True, a person could legally get a hunting rifle that could be used for sniping, but the authorities would know who sold it, who bought it, when the transaction took place, and where the present owner lived. Furthermore, the police could order the owner to provide a ballistic test of their weapon at any time. While a rifle could be legally purchased, the laws made it extremely difficult for it to be used in an illegal manner and have the owner get away with it. The laws were so restrictive, with such strict penalties, the PIRA was forced to go overseas for their weapons. In this respect, the government's gun laws inside Northern Ireland were effective. However, by going outside the country, the PIRA bypassed the British authorities' entire system of gun control. IRA sniper tactics. As the war progressed from 1969 onwards, the PIRA modified its sniper tactics to meet the changing situation on the ground. Initially, PIRA snipers could get away with relatively unsophisticated tactics since the British and RUC were inexperienced in modern urban guerrilla warfare. Any British soldier or RUC officer wearing a uniform was a target waiting to get hit, since they did not blend in with the local populace and openly patrolled the streets and neighborhoods to enforce law and order. These soldiers and officers walking patrols on the streets became favorite targets. Since walking a beat set a pattern, PIRA snipers studied their habits and ambushed them as they made their rounds. Even soldiers and officers driving in the back of open vehicles were targeted, as were those riding inside armored vehicles with open hatches and doors. Whenever possible, the PIRA sniper targeted these patrols as they passed through an intersection. While in an intersection, a shot could be made from all 4 directions. Consequently, the patrol had a lot of possible sniper positions to look for, and they could not cover them all. As the patrol moved through the intersection, the PIRA shooter preferred to target the last person in the patrol. This way, the rest of the patrol was already past the open area and moving down the street. When the last man in the patrol was shot, the other members could not see the sniper and thus could not respond effectively. All they had to do was grab their wounded comrade and drag them to cover while the sniper made their getaway. The urban areas the PIRA snipers worked in allowed them to manipulate the streets and buildings in other ways. For instance, as a British patrol passed an intersection, a PIRA sniper would fire from down a street from a door open slightly. Since the sniper was firing at an angle from a row of connected residences, the target patrol had no idea which specific residence the shot came from. As the patrol tried to figure out where the shot came from, the sniper would close the door, lock it, stash the weapon, and then walk out the back of the building free of incriminating evidence. To the soldiers looking for the sniper, the row of buildings used by the sniper formed a visual and physical barrier, allowing the shooter to make a getaway. Soldiers and officers providing security at checkpoints and installations were also inviting targets. This meant any soldier or officer checking licenses at a roadside checkpoint, directing traffic at a busy intersection, or inspecting purses at the entrance to a courthouse were targets. To target these stationary men, PIRA snipers had to maneuver within shooting distance to take a shot while remaining undetected. This required more skill and gave British counter-sniper measures a better chance to work, but the complex urban environment still gave the prepared sniper the upper hand. The PIRA resorted to all sorts of tricks or come-ons to get a British soldier or RUC officer in their sights. Police officers trying to control groups of rioting people made a good target for PIRA sniper hidden somewhere in the city. Soldiers providing security for bomb disposal specialists checking out a reported car bomb, called in by the sniper's crew, were targets. Any soldier or officer responding to any sort of incident like a robbery, IED, or car bomb did so with the realization they might be walking into an intentional trap meant to place them under the crosshairs of a waiting PIRA sniper. In the cities, PIRA snipers had a variety of shooting platforms to choose from. A favorite choice was anything that was community property, to include churches, apartment buildings, and businesses. Community property was preferable because no individual owned it, and thus no one could be charged with a crime for letting the PIRA snipers use it. Another good choice for a PIRA sniper was an abandoned house or building. Again, no individual owned these buildings, and because they were unoccupied, there was no one present to identify the PIRA snipers and give sworn testimony to the police after a shooting. Many a soldier and officer would have preferred these abandoned buildings be razed to the ground to prevent their use by PIRA shootists, but because of the environment they operated in, this was politically unacceptable. The PIRA also made use of home invasions when it was required to take a shot at the enemy. For example, in early 1993, a PIRA hit team tried to assassinate Johnny Mad Dog Adair, the ruthless leader of the Protestant Loyalist Ulster Freedom Fighters, UFF, by means of a home invasion. The team knew where Adair lived, so they planned to gun him down as he left his residence. The team hijacked a car and entered a home across the street from where Adair lived. A two-man security team stayed on the bottom floor while the shooter went upstairs and took aim at a window with a rifle. The sniper team stayed in position for several hours, hoping to put a bullet into Adair, but he never showed up and they called the operation off. The home invasion had some complications because it required a small team to break into the house and possibly control a family. The sniper team, once in the home, had to be well trained in order not to leave behind any incriminating evidence like fingerprints or trace fibers. Plus, since they were in close proximity to the family may be able to identify them at a later date from their voices, accents, or mannerisms. To complicate matters further, what about random phone calls, bathroom breaks, friends and family coming over unannounced to visit, or nosy neighbors? As far as anyone can tell, the PIRA pioneered the method of conducting sniper attacks in an urban environment while hidden inside a vehicle. One PIRA sniper crew that used this method in the late 1970s while working in Belfast. For some reason, this method was not picked up by the rest of the PIRA and was not until the 1990s that it was used again by a PIRA sniper crew working in South Armagh. The Goldfinger sniper crew, South Armagh. Without doubt, the most notorious PIRA sniper team was the Goldfinger crew working out of the PIRA stronghold of South Armagh. The Goldfinger crew, Goldfinger was their code name, brought back the earlier PIRA tactic of shooting from inside a car. Shooting from a car gave them good concealment for their attack, provided them a mobile platform that was also their means of escape, and allowed them to put miles between them and the place of the attack in minutes. The Goldfinger sniper crew were a seasoned lot and developed a successful guerrilla sniping methodology. They used a Mazda 626 hatchback as a shooting platform and installed a bulletproof metal shield in the back. A 1 foot by 1 foot shooting port was cut in the middle of the armor. The idea was the shooter, later identified as Michael Carraher, would fire through the port in the armor, then release a sliding armor door that covered the opening. So, as the Goldfinger crew drove off, any incoming enemy fire would strike the metal plate, protecting them until they escaped. The Goldfinger crew consisted of a driver, the shooter, and a man riding shotgun in the passenger seat armed with an assault rifle. They all wore balaclavas to protect their identity, and the shooter wore hearing protection so he would not deafen from the blast of the Barrett 50 caliber sniper rifle he was firing. On February 12, 1997, the Goldfinger crew targeted a vehicle checkpoint in Bestbrook Mill on Green Road for attack. They studied the terrain, the checkpoint itself, and came up with a plan of attack. On that morning, the three-man sniper team approached the checkpoint and parked the Mazda 626 near a concrete bus shelter about 120 yards away. The rear of the Mazda faced the checkpoint. The passenger riding shotgun lifted the rear hatch of the car and propped it open with a piece of wood so the shooter, Michael Caraher, had a clear shot through the armored firing port. Caraher got into position behind the big Barrett rifle and took aim at the checkpoint, but he could not get a good beat on the target because the British soldiers were hidden behind the corrugated steel of the guard shack. What the Goldfinger crew needed was some sort of bait so a soldier would expose themselves. This live bait took the form of Miss Lorraine McElroy as she approached the checkpoint in her car. When she got close to the guard shack, British soldier Lance Bombardier Stephen Restorick asked her to stop so he could check her identification. However, the young soldier had to step out from the protection of the guard shack and into the open to check Miss McElroy's driver's license. This was all Caraher needed. He took aim through his scope, sighted in on Restorick, and squeezed the trigger. The massive 50 caliber bullet left the Barrett's muzzle traveling 2,800 feet per second and struck Restorick's bullpup assault rifle. The fast-moving bullet fragmented upon impact, sending a piece of metal through Restorick's buttocks and out the other side of his body. A piece of the gun sight unpredictably careened into the car, gashing Miss McElroy in the forehead. As Restorick crumpled to the ground, Caraher pulled on a cord attached to the back of wood, propping the rear hatch open. The hatch dropped shut and the driver took off at a high rate of speed. As Caraher and crew sped away from the checkpoint, another PRA car scout the way ahead, ensuring the sniper team would not drive blindly into a British quick reaction force or hasty checkpoint. The PRA scout car led them to a rock quarry where the other PRA members were already waiting. The sniper team dropped off their weapons and car, which were in turn spirited away to a hiding place. Caraher's team was taken to a safe house where they immediately began their counter-forensics procedures, showering to wash off any gunpowder residue and placing their clothes in a bag to be burned. Unfortunately for Stephen Restorick, he was the last British soldier to be killed before the 1997 ceasefire agreement and the ninth victim of Caraher and his crew. Only 2 months after this deadly attack, the Goldfinger sniper crew, to include Michael Caraher, were arrested and their Barrett 50 caliber rifle seized. Caraher was later tried and convicted, received multiple life sentences and a 105-year prison term. The dismantling of the deadly Goldfinger sniper crew brought a sigh of relief to the soldiers and officers who continued working in South Arma. While the capture and imprisonment of Caraher and his crew should have been heralded as a counterinsurgency victory, some troubling rumors began to surface. But what kind of rumors could sour such a clear success? After all, a skilled sniper and hardened killer was brought to justice and would rot to death in a cold British prison. The evidence against Caraher and overwhelmingly, and he had no hope of beating the system. The British authorities conducted a thorough investigation, resulting in an overwhelming mountain of incriminating physical and forensic evidence. Case closed. However, the case seemed too solid, almost like there was someone on the inside who already knew about the Goldfinger crew and their activities and tipped off the authorities. These rumors appeared to be confirmed when the Sunday Times ran an article about Restorick on June 20, 2004, entitled "Last British Soldier Murdered by IRA, Sacrificed for a Spy." The Restorick family, who suffered the painful loss of their son, wanted some answers. Were the rumors true? Did the British have an informant on the inside who knew about the sniper attacks? Is it true the authorities knew the Goldfinger crew was planning an attack, but did nothing to warn the troops on the ground because the military did not want to burn their source? Was, in fact, Restorick's sacrifice used as live bait to build a bigger case against the Goldfinger crew and to learn more about the PRA structure in South Arma? After reading the article, the Restorick family made an official complaint against the Northern Ireland government and demanded answers about their son's death. In their official complaint, they cited damning statements from the article in the Sunday Times. The disturbing evidence of a cover-up by British authorities included the following, taken from the police ombudsman for Northern Ireland, December 13, 2006 report. The murder of Stephen Restrick was preventable since a Special Army surveillance unit bugged the PRA sniper team and readied an SAS hit team to arrest them. The police were monitoring the movements of the Mazda on the day of Restrick's murder, and an interception team was ready for deployment. The Sunday Times quoted a source who stated, "The surveillance group and the SAS hit team went on standby, ready to intercept the IRA. They picked up their weapons and got into their vehicles, ready to move. At the point, the TCG came on the radio to order them to stand down and remain in the camp. They couldn't believe it. They protested and again told the TCG that the sniper was on his way to Brestbrook. Again, our blokes were told not to move. The arrest team was prevented from intervening on the orders of a senior RUC police officer just 40 minutes before the attack. A Special Forces soldier using the pseudonym Tony Buchanan, who worked undercover in Northern Ireland for 9 years, was the source of the claims. The article suggested that sources believe the order to stand down was made to protect an informant. Senior police commanders are believed to have wanted to avoid a gun battle so as not to damage fragile peace negotiations. Security sources suggest the AK-47 weapon being carried by Bernard McGinn, who was riding shotgun in the sniper attack, contained a tracker beacon, which provided the police with knowledge of its location. A possibility exists McGann or someone else connected to the sniper team was cooperating with the security forces and their identity was protected. During the lull in sniper attacks before the shooting of Stephen Restrick, intelligence analysts instigated the planting of listening and tracking devices to create a better picture of the sniper suspects. The 14th Intelligence and Security Regiment were tasked by a special branch-led Tasking and Coordination Group, TCG, to plant bugging devices on the sniper team. The police were fully aware of the movements of the sniper team, for a tracking and listening device was installed in a Mazda motor vehicle used by the sniper team. In spite of these strong allegations, and after more than 2 years of investigation by the police ombudsman, there was insufficient evidence to substantiate the Restrick's family's accusations. Disturbingly, there was lack of evidence because the British authorities destroyed unknown quantities of documents relating to the case. If there was evidence supporting the Restrick's claim, it was intentionally destroyed after the Goldfinger crew's last operation. The unsatisfying end to the investigation removed the last shred of hope the Restrick family had for justice being served in the killing of their son. However, the main blow to justice came years before with the signing of the Good Friday Peace Agreement in 1998. An integral part of the agreement was imprisoned members on both sides would be released as part of the general reconciliation process. Even as Kelleher was sentenced to a century in prison after the shooting, he laughed at the court because he knew he would be out after the signing of the peace agreement. And he was right. In 2000, Michael Kelleher was released from prison along with hundreds of other convicted PIRA members and allowed to return to his home. One of the PIRA's most notorious snipers was back on the streets in the name of national healing. In 2006, the British Army wrote a summary report about its efforts in Northern Ireland entitled Operation Banner, which said this about the Goldfinger sniper crew. In 1990, PRA deployed a new weapon, a Barrett 50 caliber heavy rifle, to South Armagh, and for a while this grabbed headlines. It was first used at Crossmaglen on 16 March 1990. The round struck a soldier's helmet, but he was not seriously injured. Thereafter, PIRA snipers killed 7 soldiers in South Armagh before effective countermeasures were found. Although tragic, the episode was a relatively small blip in the statistics of the campaign. IRA sniper statistics. Fortunately, for the sake of research, the CANE, Conflict Archive of the Internet, has extensive resources for studying the conflict in Northern Ireland, to include Malcolm Sutton's An Index of Deaths from the Conflict in Northern Ireland. Sutton's detailed research describes the circumstances of every death during the Troubles, to include killings by IRA snipers. According to Sutton's research, 218 people were killed by IRA snipers, to include shooting by the real IRA, the official IRA, the provincial IRA, and the few sniper attacks made by the Irish National Liberation Army, INLA. The majority of the victims were soldiers in the British Army, officers of the RUC, and then members of various hated Protestant military organizations. Over the course of the guerrilla war from 1969 to 2001, the PIRA and other Republican paramilitary groups killed 2,054 people, with approximately 11% of these deaths caused by snipers. The following is a breakdown of those sniper attacks by year. 1969. No recorded sniper deaths of 3 total deaths. Start of the PIRA campaign. 1970. No recorded sniper deaths of 17 total deaths. 1971. 24 sniper deaths of 98 total deaths, 24% total. 1972. 50 sniper deaths of 267 total deaths, 19% total. 1973. 28 sniper deaths of 132 total deaths, 21% of total. 1974. 21 sniper deaths of 148 total deaths, 14% of total. 1975, 7 sniper deaths of 125 total deaths, 6% of total. 1976, 12 sniper deaths of 154 total deaths, 8% of total. 1977, 14 sniper deaths of 75 total deaths, 19% of total. 1978, 7 sniper deaths of 61 total deaths, 11% of total. 1979, 11 sniper deaths of 102 total deaths, 11% of total. 1980, 5 sniper deaths of 51 total deaths, 10% of total. 1981, 7 sniper deaths of 70 total deaths, 10% of total. 1982, 5 sniper deaths of 83 total deaths, 6% of total. 1983, no recorded sniper deaths of 61 total deaths. 1984, 4 sniper deaths of 48 total deaths, 8% of total. 1985, 1 sniper death of 48 total deaths, 2% of total. 1986, no recorded sniper deaths of 40 total deaths. 1987, 2 sniper deaths of 71 total deaths, 3% of total. 1988, 5 sniper deaths of 70 total deaths, 7% of total. 1989, 1 sniper death of 54 total deaths, 2% of total. 1990, 2 sniper deaths of 52 total deaths, 4% of total. 1991, no recorded sniper deaths of 50 total deaths. 1992, 4 sniper deaths of 40 total deaths, 10% of total. 1993, 7 sniper deaths of 38 total deaths, 18% of total. 1994, no recorded sniper deaths of 25 total deaths, temporary ceasefire in effect. 1995, 1 sniper death of 7 total deaths, 14% of total. 1996, no recorded sniper deaths of 13 total deaths. 1997, 1 sniper death out of 5 total deaths, 20% of total. 1998, no recorded sniper deaths of 36 total deaths, Good Friday Peace Accords. 1999 through 2001, no recorded sniper deaths of 12 total deaths. These statistics reveal the PIRA used sniping as just one part of a larger guerrilla campaign. Most killings were accomplished through IEDs, improvised explosive devices, car bombs, drive-bys, and close-in assassinations. These statistics also reflect the fact, over time, sniping became less feasible for the PIRA because of the government's counter-sniper measures. From 1971 to 1974, the PIRA conducted more than half of their lethal sniper attacks, killing 124 people. Over the next 25 years, the PIRA killed less than 100 people in sniper attacks. The British military and RUC learned from their early years and changed their tactics. British soldiers stopped standing at unprotected checkpoints and began observing the terrain in sniper-proof guard towers. Soldiers stopped walking from one point to another and started traveling in armored cars, or patrols were ferried from one point to another in helicopters. Soldiers began wearing modern body armor and using more effective tactics when on foot patrol. Also, the government's forensic onslaught made sniper attacks more difficult from a counter-forensic point of view. As a result, it was easier for the PIRA to blow up an enemy patrol by a remote-control bomb than it was to shoot them in person. Another reason for the decrease in PIRA sniper attacks was the government's own increasingly aggressive use of snipers. As British patrols moved in Northern Ireland cities, they were regularly covered by static sniper teams on the lookout for PIRA snipers. During large rallies and rioting, counter-sniper teams provided overwatch for their fellow soldiers and police who were actually down at street level battling it out with the brick-throwing crowds. While the PIRA snipers employed many clever tactics, sometimes their enemies' counter-sniper tactics were better. When this was the case, the PIRA paid the price. Stutton's research reveals at least 7 PIRA sniper team members were killed during their operations. On September 29, 1972, James Quigley of the PIRA was killed by the British Army. He was shot during an attempted sniper attack on a British Army foot patrol on Albert Street, Lower Falls, Belfast. On December 27, 1972, Eugene Devlin of the PIRA was killed by the British Army. He was shot during an attempted sniper attack on British Army patrol on Townsend Street, Strabane, County Tyrone. On May 18, 1973, Sean McKee of the PIRA was killed by the British Army. He was shot during an attempted sniper attack on the British Army foot patrol on Fairfield Street, Ardoyne, Belfast. On April 17, 1977, Trevor McKibben of the PIRA was killed by the British Army. He was shot while carrying a rifle on Flack Street, Ardoyne, Belfast. On February 22, 1986, Anthony Gow of the PIRA was killed by the British Army. He was shot after being involved in a sniper attack on the Fort George British Army base, Denny. On September 14, 1986, James McKernan of the PIRA was killed by the British Army. He was shot after being involved in a sniper attack on a British Army foot patrol on Andersontown Road, Belfast. On March 14, 1988, Kevin McCracken of the PIRA was killed by the British Army. He was shot during an attempted sniper attack on a British Army foot patrol on Norglen Crescent, Turf Lodge, Belfast. PIRA sniping and the troubles. While the sniper deaths inflicted by the PIRA are revealing, they do not tell the whole story. For more people than the 218 deaths listed in Sutton's study were wounded in sniper attacks but survived. An estimated 5 times the number of dead were also wounded by PIRA snipers for an additional 1,090 casualties. Some victims were shot in legs or arms and survived. Others were saved by body armor and helmets. Some received grievous wounds, but were saved by battlefield medics and emergency room teams who became trauma wizards after decades of treating gunshot wounds. No one knows exactly how many people were shot by PIRA snipers, as these statistics were never recorded, drowned out somewhere in the more than 37,000 separate shooting incidents that took place over the course of the Troubles. Additionally, more than 2,000 killings out of a total of 3,700 deaths have gone unsolved. A number of these victims may have been shot by snipers, but we will never know. This is a testament to the counter-forensic prowess of the Loyalist and Republican paramilitaries who became experts at getting away with murder. The PIRA's sniping campaign showed real tactical innovation as far as the art of urban guerrilla sniping is concerned. The PIRA was the first guerrilla movement on record to employ a vehicle as a sniper platform. They were the first movement to successfully employ either high-caliber rifles in a sustained sniper campaign. They were the first movement to recognize the threat of forensic investigation and then employ disciplined counter-forensic methods during their sniper operations. Also, the PIRA was able to continually supply its snipers with weapons despite some of the most restrictive gun laws in the world, and despite being physically isolated by the virtue of Northern Ireland being part of an island. Fortunately for the soldiers, police, and citizens of Northern Ireland, the 1998 Good Friday Peace Accords have taken root and have silenced the PIRA's sniper campaign for the foreseeable future.